Okay, happy Tuesday. We are going to continue on with the lesson that we did yesterday with some more practice. You'll notice in this one we have more decimals and fractions. So if you do not have a calculator, pause the video and make sure everybody gets a calculator. Alright, yesterday, remember, we came up with a rule that said that before we did anything, we had to simplify both sides of the equal sign first. So if we look at example A down here, we have like terms that we can combine. Our like terms for example A are 42x and minus 19x. So we need to take 42 minus 19 and we get 23x. Bring down the plus 18 equals negative 28. Now we have a typical two-step equation that we can solve. We're going to use our opposite operations and subtract 18 from both sides, which leaves 23x equal to negative 46. Divide by 23. We have a negative divided by a positive number, which gives us a negative answer. 46 divided by 23 is 2. Now, if you look at B, some of you all may panic because you see decimals, but you know, we spend lots of money on these calculators and these smartphones. With calculators, the decimals are not scary, okay? We can use our calculators. We treat them the exact same way as we do whole numbers. We're still using our opposite operations. So if this is a plus 2.5, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to subtract 2.5 from both sides. Now, I told you yesterday that I really want fractions for your answers. However, there's an exception. When your question involves decimals, your answer can involve decimals. So here I have 5.1 minus 2.5, which will give me 2.6. Then I can divide by 0.52 on both sides. Y equals 5. So this one, we don't have to worry about our decimals and our answers because it's right there. So pause the video for a minute, make sure everybody catches up and is on the same page. Okay, if you look at example C, here we don't have like terms to combine, but we do have parentheses to get rid of. And to get rid of those parentheses, we're going to distribute. So distribute this 6. 6 times 3m and 6 times 5. Bring down the 66. Now we have a typical two-step equation to solve. So pause the video and finish solving it. Alright, if you finish solving, subtract 30 from both sides, divide by 18, you end up with m equals 2. Example D is the same way, only this time we're distributing a negative number. Be very cautious distributing the negative. Okay, so you have negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Everybody typically does really well with that first step. It's this second one that we forget. It's negative 5 times negative 3, which will give us a positive 15, equals negative 25. We can finish solving by subtracting 15 from both sides. So negative 5x equals negative 40. Divide by negative 5. X equals positive 8. So be careful here on distributing the negative. Okay, if we look at example E, we have fractions. No big deal. Remember, to add or subtract fractions, you have to have the same denominators. If you look at example E, we have the same denominators. So we can just keep that denominator of 12. If your denominators are the same, you can add or subtract the numerators like normal. So this is going to be 9x minus 4x, which is 5x, equals 10. So if the denominators are the same, easy peasy, okay? Now, this is one of those that I have to multiply both sides by 12. So we get 5x equal to 120. Divide both sides by 5. We get x equals 24. Okay, so this one wasn't too bad because we already had common denominators. But if you look at example F, we see that our denominators are not the same. Now, you've been taught several ways to get common denominators, but I'm going to show you what's called the TP method. We are literally going to make a TP. We're going to have two diagonals and a base, and we're going to make a TP. So the way we're going to make our TP is if you have 2/5, I'm just going to ignore the b's for now. If you have 2/5 plus 3/4, those are our two fractions. Okay, to make our TP, the diagonals here make up the numerator. So if I'm going to do a diagonal, 2, and I'm going to multiply it times 4, I'm going to get 8. I'm going to put a plus sign because that's a plus. Then we're going to do this diagonal, 3 times 5, which is 15. So pause the video for just a second and make sure everybody's there. Alright, now we're going to do the floor of our TP. The floor of our TP makes up the denominator of our fraction. So if I multiply our 5 times 4, that'll give us 20. And then all we have left to do is simplify this. So 8 plus 15 is 23 over 20. That is 2/5 plus 3/4. So we have 23 over 20, and then just throw your b back on top there, equals 3. Now we have a question just like all the other ones. Here's my equal sign, so there's my wall. We're going to multiply both sides by 20 to get rid of that denominator. 20's cancel. We end up with 23b equals 60. Divide by 23. That will not simplify, so you just have to leave it as 60 over 23. Okay? Get comfortable with fractions now because we'll be using them a lot later. Okay? Here's another practice adding of fractions that I want you all to try on your own. So let's do 5/6 minus 2/3. Okay? Everybody take a minute, pause the video, practice your TP method on your own. Okay, if you are practicing your TP method, here we go. Our diagonals, our first diagonal. 5 times 3, 15. Minus, since that's a minus sign, our second diagonal, 2 times 6. Over the floor of our TP, 6 times 3. If I simplify that, I have 5 minus 12, which is 3, over 18, and that simplifies into 1/6. So let's just get used to fractions now, okay? They're not as scary and difficult as what you think they are, and the more you practice them, the easier they will get. Alright, let's look at this last page. I want you guys to try examples G and H on your own. G has fractions, but they have the same denominator. And H, I want you to practice your TP method to simplify those. Okay, if we look at example G, our common denominator, so we can just take 1b minus 3b and get negative 2b. Multiply both sides by 13, you end up with b equals negative 4. Now, if you do your TP method on H, we see that we end up with negative 5 over 50, which simplifies into negative 1/10. So that brings it over here on the right side, negative 1n over 10. Now, on this one, we can't just multiply by 10 because we do still have this negative up here. So that's why I chose to multiply by a negative 10 so it can cancel out the negatives because a negative and a negative make a positive. And then your 10s cancel out. Make sure you simplify this fraction. Negative 10 over 5 is negative 2. Okay, let's look at example I. This time we have to distribute before we can do anything. And whenever we distribute, this time we have 2 times we need to distribute because we have 2 sets of parentheses. So we're going to start off with the 7. 7 times 4x is 28x. 7 times negative 1, negative 7. Now, be extra, extra, extra careful here. We are distributing a negative 5 to both of those. So negative 5 times 1 and negative 5 times negative 8x gives us positive 40x. So be very careful there distributing your negative. Now, we have like terms to combine. We actually have 2 pairs of like terms. We have our 28x and we have our 40x. So the negative 12 is still there. 28x plus 48x is 68x. And then we also have these two guys here in the middle. Negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12. Now I can go about solving it like normal. Add 12 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0 equals 68x. Divide by 68. 0 divided by anything is 0 equals x. Do not be startled because you got a 0 for an answer. It's a perfectly acceptable answer. So pause this video and I want everybody to do number 2 on your own. Okay, as you do number 2, again, you have 2 times to distribute. We're first going to distribute a negative 5, which gives us negative 5 plus 5x. Then we're going to distribute the 4, and this one's a positive 4. Well, positive 4 times negative x is negative 4x, but then we have positive 4 times positive 2, so plus 8. Again, we have 2 sets of like terms to combine. We have 5x minus 4x, which is 1x, and then we have negative 5 plus 8, which is plus 3, equals 1. So this one is actually just a one step. Once we get it down to this point, all we have to do is subtract 3 from both sides. You get x equals negative 2. Okay, your homework is a worksheet. Again, if you have any questions, email me or send me a remind text, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Have a good rest of the day.